I'm Ginny Hogger. I teach for science fair, at least chemistry and biology are mine, and this is Shannon Shaw, and she's the earth science teacher, so those of you who have 8th grade students, she will be your teacher for that. We wanted to have this meeting. We've never had a parent meeting before science fair before, but it was a recommendation of a parent last year, and we liked it. So we just want to be able to give you guys some information and some hints and clues on how to get your child through this very major project. Let me justify science fair to you a little bit first, because your kids have been complaining about it to me already. So this is the reason that we do science fair. Number one, it helps cement the scientific method to them. I can have them memorize the 6 steps. I can have them give me example experiments following the 6 steps. I can even make them perform an experiment in class using the 6 steps. But them taking ownership of an experiment and actually having to do it themselves and think through it, it really, really cements in the idea of scientific method, how to eliminate variables, how to change just one thing, how to analyze your results, and how to draw conclusions of your experiment. So that's one of the reasons that we do it. Another one is that it teaches time management skills. The science fair is not until March 28th, but we're starting already. And so the kids have a timeline that I gave them. There are things that are due that they have to turn in to try and keep them on task, but really it is up to them as to doing the experiment and making sure they're collecting data and doing research and getting their paper together and doing their backboard. Another reason is for their critical thinking skills, and for me this is probably number one for me. And science is so many terms and concepts trying to learn, but do we really use them and utilize what we've learned and be able to turn it into some kind of project or something? And that's what science fair does. It really makes them think critically about their experiment. They have to explain why it happened the way it did, why it didn't happen the way they expected it to happen, and really be able to bring those ideas in, as well as relating it then to something else. It's great to do a plant experiment, but how does that relate to the real world? What could I use that information for? Another one is that it teaches them to write scientifically. They do have to write a science paper. Scientific writing is very, very different than creative writing or writing about a novel or something like that. It's a very different process. You come out with a very different product. And so this whole thing takes them through that process. It also taps into different learning strengths. The backboards, I gave some examples, and we'll talk about those a little bit later, but it brings out kids' artistic strengths. It's very visual with their graphs and their backboards. It can be very logical and mathematical, so those type of students tend to like science fair. So it taps into a lot of our different strengths. It also hones in on their presentation skills. On the 28th, they will be judged. There will be guest judges who come in. They will give a presentation to the judge. The judge will ask them questions. They will have to answer those questions, know the answers, understand why their experiment happened the way that it did. So that all helps them with those kinds of skills. And another one is following directions. There's a lot of instructions that we're going to give the kids. There's a lot of rules that they have to follow as far as writing their paper and what constitutes a good experiment and things like that. So they do have to follow directions, and it's always a good lesson for them. So that's sort of my justification for why we put this ginormous project together. Believe me, it's a lot of work for us too. So it is a lot of work for the kids. It's a lot of work for us too. Okay, all the kids came home on Friday with these folders. And inside is all sorts of goodies. The parent letter was here. They have a topic selection sheet as well as their experimental design sheet. The green sheet, everybody's is arranged exactly the same way. This is their timeline for when each piece is due. And then I have some tidbits in there and then some stuff on the back too. Look through these. Be familiar with what they need to turn in. The kids will know. We will talk about it in class. We take time in class to talk about all of these things so that they know what they have to do. But this should make sure your kid doesn't lose their folder. We did put everything that's in this folder, we sent you guys electronically. So if you save that email, everything that's in here is on that email. And the kids can always ask me, and I can resend it too if they lose something or need more of something. They can ask. So those are important though. Yes.
The white sheets, those are used like note cards?
Yes, those are, yes, they're note
papers?
cards, exactly.
Okay.
Let's see. The first thing they have to do is choose a topic. It's the hardest part of science fair, choosing a testable topic. And their only limitation is that they have to choose something related to their class. So something related to biology, chemistry, or earth science. A great place and a place that I send the kids is to a website called Science Buddies. It's sciencebuddies.org. This is the page that will come up. And when you click on project ideas,
and this website is listed on their choosing a topic worksheet that's in their folder. So that would be, they have to turn in about choosing the topic. There's a few websites right at the top of it. So it's all on there for them.
and then all you need to do is scroll down through, and there's all these different categories. So they can just click on chemistry, and then there'll be a whole bunch listed. There's a whole bunch in biology. I mean, any of those are biology related. There's geology and ocean sciences. All of those would be related to earth science. And I went through some of them because some of these in engineering were related to chemistry, or at least I would accept them for chemistry if your child is a little more bent that way toward engineering or something like that. So even though, you think chemistry, well, the only one you can do is chemistry. Well, there's a lot of chemistry in cooking too. So they don't have to limit themselves to just one area there. They can certainly look through. I did tell the kids I have a couple books. I don't have an earth science one. I don't know if an earth science one exists, but I have these two books that I told the kids about, and they can borrow them from me and make copies. There's lots and lots of suggestions in here too. So, and they can certainly go to the library. There's lots of science fair idea books at the library too. And there's tons of other websites too. This just happens to be one that I found that was good.
They can meet with
Absolutely. And I've encouraged them all as they come up with topics that they're interested in to come talk to me. I know Michaela came and talked to me today, and we kind of thought through, well, is that really testable? Can we really do that? And so, sometimes it can be discouraging because they came up with a good idea, but it wasn't testable. But you have to talk through all of those things. And that's really what you guys are really good for. Let them bounce ideas off of you and think about think about, how would you test that? How could you test if someone likes spicy food, or if spicy food is genetic? That was Michaela's idea. And that would be very difficult to test. And we talked about, how could you design an experiment where you could test that? Remember that there's a time limit, and trying to find people is sometimes a limiting factor. So you just have to be careful about that. But let them use you as a sounding board, and then, if you guys can't figure it out, tell them, go talk to Mrs. Hogg or go talk to Mrs. Shaw, and, make sure it's okay. And they'll have to anyway. They're going to have to conference with us before they can get started on their experiment anyway.
Some of the main problems I've run into is they think science fair, like on TV shows and stuff, where they make a model of something like the volcanoes or something cool like that. So as they're starting to get ideas, really check and make sure that they're running an experiment, that they're like changing something and testing something, because they do, especially with my subject, with earth science, they get kind of caught up in, making a model that shows something but that they can't test. So that's one thing to kind of make sure as they're talking with you about it. Is it something they're running the experiment with?
Absolutely. The next thing on my list is just talking about procrastination. We have high school students. A lot of them like to procrastinate. I told them today, procrastination is your enemy. Do not wait to start this. Especially some projects are going to take time. If you do a biology project involving plants where you start them from seeds, you've got to have a couple weeks before you can actually get measurable data. It's fine. I would encourage them to do plant experiments, but they've got to keep in mind their timeline. They've got to make sure they have enough time to gather data and things like that. Another thing to keep in mind is cost, too. It just, completely depends on the experiment, but if there's sort of crazy things that you have to order or buy, then it makes it very expensive, so try to simplify that. We do have some stuff that's available to the kids, for instance, if they need balances or something, if they're weighing something. But that will be, they have to stay at school. I can't send those things home, but they're welcome to bring their stuff here and weigh whatever it is and collect their data, that sort of thing. I had kids last year who did bacteria projects, and they used the microscopes here. and they looked at the bacteria under the microscope, and, and then put the microscope away, and, but that was how they did that. So they can use the equipment here as long as the equipment doesn't go home. So don't feel like you have to go out and buy a microscope if you're doing some kind of biology project. That's ridiculous, okay? If you do need to order something, some kind of chemical, maybe for a chemistry project, or I don't know, if you're doing something with rocks and you need hydrochloric acid or something, I don't know anything about rocks. But there is a great website. It's called homesciencetools.com, and they sell very small amounts of things. So, for like an experiment or something, it's fairly inexpensive. We order actually a lot of stuff from there because I don't have very big classes. And so, things go bad before we would use it up. So this is a place that offers you a great source for a smaller quantity of things like that. So it's homesciencetools.com.
Is that in the packet?
It is not. I'll email it. I'll send it out somehow. Okay, and then I wanted to hand this out. Some people have a little bit of trouble figuring out how I can help my child versus me doing the project.
Oh, that's not a problem.
And some of you want to say, well, you're in high school, so this is your project. You should be able to do the entire thing on your own. Grace is set up to be a partnership between home and school. The science fair is no different. We want you to help your children. There's different ways that you can help. There's certainly ways to cross the line, but there are definitely ways to help. So the chart at the bottom of this sheet just gives you some ideas of, going too far and what you can do to help. The first one says, in their question, discuss with your child whether a project seems practical. Is it testable? Can you put a variable in there? Can you gather results, gather data from that? As opposed to going too far, which is you picking the idea for your child and telling them this is the question you're going to test. So if you just look through the chart, it gives you some ideas, but we want you to be involved in the project. We want you to help them think of ways that their project is related to the real world. We want you to help them with research, help them figure out which direction do they need to go. Help them stay on task. Probably the number one thing that you